A reading from Hebrews chapter 1, verses 1 through 4, and chapter 2, verses 5 through 12. Long ago, God spoke to our ancestors in many and various ways by the prophets. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by a Son, whom he anointed heir of all things, through whom he also created the worlds. He is the reflection of God's glory and the exact imprint of God's very being, and he sustains all things by his powerful word. When he had made purification for sins, he sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high, having become as much superior to the angels as the name he has inherited is more excellent than theirs. Now God did not subject the coming world, about which we are speaking, to angels, but as someone testified somewhere, what are human beings that you are mindful of them, or mortals that you care for them? You have made them for a little while lower than the angels. You have crowned them with glory and honor, and subjecting all things under their feet. Now, subjecting all things to them, God left nothing outside their control. As it is, we do not yet see everything in subjection to them, but we do see Jesus, who for a little while was made lower than the angels, now crowned with glory and honor because of the suffering of death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. It was fitting that God, for whom and through whom all things exist, in bringing many children to glory, should make the pioneer of their salvation perfect through sufferings. For the one who sanctifies and those who are sanctified all have one Father. For this reason, Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters, saying, I will proclaim your name to my brothers and sisters. In the midst of the congregation, I will praise you. What a triumph for him, as she often thought. Could he know the proposal which she had so proudly spurned only 4 months ago would now have been most gladly and gratefully received? He was as generous, she doubted not, as the most generous of his sex, but while he was mortal, there must be a triumph. She began now to comprehend that he was exactly the man who, in disposition and talents, would most suit her. His understanding and temper, though unlike her own, would have answered all her wishes. It was a union that must have been to the advantage of both. By her ease and liveliness, his mind might have been softened, his manners improved, and from his judgment, information, and knowledge of the world, she might have received benefit of greater importance. Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, Chapter 50. Here, deep into Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, it all clicks into place for our dear Elizabeth Bennet. She spent the whole book, up until this moment, believing the worst of Mr. Darcy, being prejudiced. Yet slowly, reality wears down her preconceived notions. She visits his house, which demonstrates both grandeur and sensibility in equal measure. Darcy's housekeeper, sister, and cousin paint a picture of a deeply loving and kind man who will go to absurd measures to care for the people that he loves. Darcy then deploys that degree of care for Elizabeth's wayward sister Lydia, entrapped in the embrace of Darcy's father's ward, Mr. Wickham. Ever the master of dramatic irony, Austen portrays Elizabeth in despair in all of this. She now knows the wonders of Mr. Darcy, yet, through the combined weight of her previous rejection of Darcy and Lydia's indiscretion with Wickham, Elizabeth believes that Darcy's goodness sits well beyond her reach. She marvels at him and regrets his seeming inaccessibility. Scripture often deploys romantic attachment as one of the ways to reflect on the divine human relationship. In the New Testament, the letter to the Ephesians and teaching on marriage presents Christ as groom and church as bride. In the Old Testament, we have an entire highly erotic love poem, Song of Songs or Song of Solomon, analogizing the love between God and God's people through many nature-based sexual innuendos. How fair and pleasant you are, O loved one, delicate maiden! You are stately as a palm tree, and your breasts are like its clusters. I say I will climb the palm tree and lay hold of its branches. Oh, your breasts be like clusters of the vine, and the scent of your breath like apples, and your kisses like the best wine that goes down smoothly, gliding over lips and teeth. I am my beloved's, and his desire is for me. Come, my beloved, let us go forth into fields and lodge in the villages. Let us go out early to the vineyards and see whether the vines have budded, through the grape blossoms have opened, and the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love. The mandrakes give forth fragrance, and over our doors all our choice fruits. Now, as old, which I have laid up for you, O my beloved. Song of Songs, chapter 7, verses 6 through 13. Given that faith's general prudishness and the presence of small children, we don't preach much on this text. But just about every pew Bible and just about every church contains it. Song of Songs can remind us of the expanded palette that we have to work with in understanding how we relate to God. So it's not as weird as you might think that I hear Elizabeth Bennet's pining for the now fully revealed Darcy in Hebrew chapter 2's quotation of Psalm 8. Now God did not subject the coming world about which we are speaking to angels, but someone testified somewhere, what are human beings that you are mindful of them, or mortals that you care for them? You have made them for a little while lower than the angels. You have crowned them with glory and honor, subjecting all things under their feet. Hebrews chapter 2, verses 5 through 8. God has demonstrated profound care for humanity, and I can never stress enough how crazy that should feel. The perfect and all-powerful Creator leverages the most powerful forces in the universe to care for us, an imperfect, sin-prone mess. This expression of that thought feels like a romantic confession to me. It echoes a lover feeling so inadequate in the face of the perfection of their love, and unlike Elizabeth Bennet, knowing that they can receive love from their beyond perfect lover. For millennia, our creative output has pondered the depth of love and its associated passion. Texts like Song of Songs or Psalm 8 and Hebrews 2 frames God's love for us with at least that much passion. God willingly rends asunder God's perfect peace and tranquility to love us. And even in our constant inconstancy, willingly sacrifices anything for our sake. Do we even begin to reciprocate? Do we sit like Elizabeth Bennet or the author of Psalms 8 and marvel at the wonders of the lover who loves us? God bent the universe and opened up God's self to unending disappointment for love of us. Growing up in a very mainline denomination and in a very mainline-looking church, few of the people around me showed any reciprocal passion for God. In terms of priorities, God fit somewhere between work, family, and golf, or other suitably middle-class pursuit. We knew that God loved us, forgave us, and helped us. In exchange, we should believe, be nice, do good things, stay in school, don't do drugs, vote Republican, enter a suitably responsible career path, and don't have sex until you get married. Life-altering passion hardly entered the picture. To me, this is the biggest disconnect between the church world that I grew up in and the people I read about in the Bible. In both testaments, people go to the ends of the earth, risk death, or forever shift their way of living because of an encounter with God. They meet God's passion with as much passion as they can muster. They recognize the magnitude of love and perfection that has chosen to be mindful of them and let that upend their lives. That's at the core of biblical living. We then should live more biblically, marveling at our amazing lover and seeking to live with reciprocal passion.